Hi, I'm Ava Thompson and welcome to our channel. Today we're leaving the well-trodden tourist paths behind and embarking on an exciting journey through the sun-drenched Caribbean islands. We're on a quest to uncover the stories etched in stone, the tales of empires, pirates, and soldiers that echo through the corridors of time. These fortresses, scattered across the islands, are more than just old buildings. They are the physical embodiment of centuries of history. From the strategic bluffs of Nassau to the harbors of St. Martin, each fort has a unique story to tell. So, grab your explorer's hat and join me as we step back in time. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our adventures. Let's go! Our first stop brings us to the island of New Providence in the Bahamas, just west of the bustling city of Nassau. Here, perched atop a hill with a commanding view of the harbor, stands the impressive Fort Charlotte. This isn't just one fort, it's a complex of three, built over 32 years, starting in 1787. Named by Lord Dunmore, it was a symbol of British power, meant to intimidate any would-be attackers. Inside, the fort is a labyrinth of passages and chambers. The air is cool and damp as we descend into the dungeons. The guides here, often dressed in period costumes, bring the history to life. One of the most intriguing parts of Fort Charlotte is the extensive network of underground tunnels. Walking through them feels like stepping into another world. As we emerge back into the bright Bahamian sunlight, we climb to the upper ramparts. The view from here is simply breathtaking. You can see the entire harbor of Nassau spread out before you. Looking at these cannons, many of which are still in their original placements, you get a sense of the immense firepower this fort possessed. The fort is surrounded by a lush landscape, a stark contrast to the harsh military purpose of the structure. What makes Fort Charlotte so significant is not a history of great battles, but its role as a silent guardian. It represents a period of consolidation for the British Empire in the Caribbean. Before we leave, I take one last look back at the fort. It's a testament to the engineering and labor of its time, built by a combination of British soldiers and enslaved Africans. Fort Charlotte is more than just a tourist attraction. It's a history lesson carved in stone. A perfect start to our exploration of the region's forgotten forts. Let's move on. Our journey now takes us southeast to the Dominican Republic, to the vibrant city of Puerto Plata. Here, guarding the entrance to the bay, we find the formidable Fortaleza San Felipe. Construction began in 1564 under the orders of King Philip II of Spain. Unlike Fort Charlotte, Fort San Felipe has seen its share of action. The walls are incredibly thick, designed to withstand cannon fire from warships. The architecture is classic Spanish colonial military style, functional and brutally effective. Inside the fort, many of the original cannons are still in place, aimed out towards the sea. One of the most fascinating aspects of Fort San Felipe is its later history as a prison. During the Trujillo dictatorship, this fort became a notorious jail for political prisoners. Exploring the different levels of the fort, you find small museums and exhibits that detail its long and storied past. The view from the top is spectacular. You can see the entire city of Puerto Plata curving along the coastline. What I find most compelling about Fort San Felipe is its sheer longevity. It has stood watch over this harbor for over 450 years. The fort is now a protected historical monument and a popular museum. It's beautifully maintained, allowing visitors to safely explore its ramparts, chambers, and courtyards. As we prepare to leave, I'm struck by the contrast between the fort's violent purpose and its current peaceful state. Fort San Felipe is a perfect example of how a place of conflict can be transformed into a place of learning and reflection. It's not just a relic, it's a living part of Puerto Plata's identity, connecting the city's present to its very deep and dramatic past. Onward to our next destination. Our next destination is the Spice Isle of the Caribbean, Grenada. High on a volcanic hill overlooking the magnificent natural harbor of St. George's, we find Fort George. This fort has a particularly complex and layered history, having been started by the French in 1705 and later completed by the British. The first thing you notice about Fort George is the climb. The architecture of Fort George is a fascinating blend of French and British military engineering. Walking along the ramparts, you are treated to what is arguably the most beautiful harbor view in the entire Caribbean. But Fort George is not just a relic of the colonial era. It played a central and tragic role in Grenada's modern history. It was here in October 1983 that Prime Minister Maurice Bishop and several of his cabinet members were executed. The fort still bears the scars of that invasion. Exploring the old barracks and officers' quarters, you get a sense of the daily life of the soldiers stationed here. The cannons of Fort George are particularly impressive. Many are British-made, bearing the royal cipher of King George III. The significance of Fort George lies in its continuous use and its pivotal role in both the colonial and post-colonial history of Grenada. It's not a sanitized museum piece, it's a living part of the city. As we prepare to leave, I look down once more at the stunning view of St. George's. The fort stands as a silent witness to centuries of history. It's a place of immense beauty and profound historical weight. Visiting Fort George is essential to understanding Grenada. Let's continue our journey. Our Caribbean fortress tour now brings us to the island of Antigua. At the entrance to the harbor of St. John's, we find Fort James. Built by the British in the early 18th century, this fort was designed to protect the island's most important commercial port. What immediately strikes you about Fort James is its excellent state of preservation. The fort's most impressive features are its cannons. There are 10 of them still in place, lined up along the main rampart, pointing out to sea. Fort James is a place rich with local legends and stories. The fort's location offers a stunning view not just of the sea, but also of the nearby beaches. Exploring the interior of the fort, you can visit the main powder magazine. The barracks give you a glimpse into the lives of the soldiers who were stationed here. The fort never saw a major battle, much like Fort Charlotte. Its strength was its power of deterrence. Today, Fort James is a wonderfully atmospheric and accessible historic site. It's not overly commercialized. You can wander freely among the ruins and the preserved buildings. There's a small restaurant nearby where you can sit, enjoy a drink, and gaze out at the same view the British soldiers saw 3 centuries ago. As we leave, I'm thinking about the legacy of Fort James. It's a powerful symbol of Antigua's colonial past. It's a reminder that the peaceful beaches and luxury resorts we see today are built upon a history of empire, trade, and conflict. Fort James offers a window into that world. On to our final stop. For our final stop, we travel to the unique island of St. Martin and St. Martin. On the Dutch side, on a peninsula between Great Bay and Little Bay, lie the ruins of Fort Amsterdam. This fort has the distinction of being the very first fort built by the Dutch in the Caribbean. The history of Fort Amsterdam is one of constant struggle and changing hands. What remains of Fort Amsterdam today are primarily the foundations, some partial walls, and a few cannons. One of the most significant historical figures associated with this fort is Peter Stuyvesant. The location of the fort is, once again, strategically brilliant. Beyond its military history, Fort Amsterdam is now a designated important bird area. The peninsula has become a sanctuary for a colony of brown pelicans. Exploring the ruins feels like a true discovery. The visitor experience here is unique. You might be staying at a luxury resort, sipping a cocktail by the pool one minute, and the next you can take a short walk up the hill and be transported back 400 years. What I love about Fort Amsterdam is that it feels wild and untamed. The ruins are slowly being reclaimed by nature. It's a powerful reminder that all empires, no matter how mighty, eventually fade. As our tour of the Caribbean's forgotten forts comes to a close, Fort Amsterdam feels like a fitting end. It encapsulates the entire story: the European rivalries, the fight for control of trade, the strategic importance of these small islands. It's a place that tells us that even after the battles are over, the stories remain, waiting for us to come and listen. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And so our journey through the forgotten forts of the Caribbean comes to an end. We've walked on the ramparts of history, from the silent British power of Fort Charlotte to the battle-scarred ruins of Fort Amsterdam. These magnificent structures are so much more than just piles of old stones. They connect us to a past that is both dramatic and deeply human. Go beyond the beach and listen to the stories these forts have to tell. If you've enjoyed this adventure and want to come along on more, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to the channel. Remember to keep your spirit of adventure alive, and always be curious about the world around you. Until our next journey together, keep exploring.